This is a revolution that's going on in real time in our country. The Prop 50 is foundational if we're going to save this republic.
We should have many more seats in Congress in California. We are entitled to 5 more seats.
Sitting and just playing by his rules, working people will lose every single time.
It makes no sense to me, just like it makes no sense in Texas, disenfranchising people who should be represented in Congress.
Well, a big decision for Californians on Election Day. Soon they'll have to answer the question, should the state temporarily redraw its congressional maps? Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Yamamoto. The stakes are high for the November 4th special election. If approved, Proposition 50 would likely give Democrats 5 more seats in Congress by redrawing congressional districts. This is in direct response to Texas redrawing their districts to favor Republicans. But unlike Texas, here in California, the decision is with you, the voters. This is the current congressional district map. The red Republican districts are primarily in the Central Valley, the more rural parts of Northern California, and some strongholds in Southern California. And here's the new map if Proposition 50 is approved. You can see some of those large rural districts will now include parts of cities like Santa Rosa, turning most of Northern California Democrat and blue. So let's break this down. Unlike Texas, where the legislature determines congressional maps, California maps are drawn by an independent bipartisan commission. In order to override that commission, there needs to be a vote. So let's say these new maps are approved in November during that November 4th special election. What would that look like for Californians? Here's Lauren Toms.
Under Prop 50, California's congressional maps could shift the balance of power not only felt in Washington, but on the ground in counties across the state. And Sonoma state political expert David McEwen says to look to the north to understand the stakes.
You have to win and pick up a couple of seats in the north to then make it possible to draw an inside straight for the South and the Central Valley to get those other 3 seats.
That inside straight is the heart of Prop 50, a mid-decade map redraw designed to help Democrats gain 5 new congressional seats in a state where maps usually change only once a decade. But the map isn't as new as it looks or feels.
This is not something that the creators of Prop 50 kind of came up with on their own. This is actually a map that the commission was looking at the end of the 2021 process.
Redistricting expert Paul Mitchell says many of these lines from Southern California up to the North Coast were first considered by the state's independent redistricting commission back in 2021. The difference this time, a clear political intent to move just enough Democrats into Republican-leaning districts to offset Republican gains in Texas.
Kind of the starting point for the California maps, being a nonpartisan map, made it a lot easier to achieve these gains for Democrats without disrupting the majority of the state's districts.
But Republicans call it a power grab. Congressman Kevin Kiley says under the proposed map, his district would be split 6 ways.
A lot of people will not be able to vote for the person who represents them now because your district will be shattered into different pieces. And so if you like your representative, you don't like your representative, you may lose the right to vote for them or against them.
Kiley warns that sidestepping the state's independent process approved by voters to prevent gerrymandering will weaken trust in mixed communities that share little in common, linking solidly blue Marin County to Trump-supporting areas near the Oregon border, all under one representative.
Suddenly you have a representative who also represents very different communities that have maybe an entirely different set of interests. And so people are going to be left in many cases without any sense that they have their own representative in Congress. They're advocating for them and fighting for them.
And as McEwen teaches that every map tells a story, this one shows how politics, power, and place collide.
These are very divergent and different communities that do not see the world the same way and reflect, I think, the diversity of California and its political interests.
There's, of course, a lot of political weight and money behind the campaigns for and against Proposition 50, with some familiar faces showing up in political ads.
California, the whole nation is counting on you.
Former President Barack Obama and other Democratic lawmakers have come out in support of Proposition 50, saying the ballot measure puts our elections back on a level playing field because they say Republicans are trying to rig the election. But another famous face has been very outspoken against Proposition 50.
What they want to do is take us backwards. This is why it is important for you to vote no on Proposition 50.
Actor and former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger has repeatedly denounced Governor Newsom's redistricting efforts, saying the race to redraw saddens him. Schwarzenegger helped create the independent commission that came up with California's current congressional maps. And this campaign is on track to become one of the most expensive in California history. The state campaign finance report shows spending at more than $215 million so far, with $134 million for and $78 million against. The money has already surpassed spending for the 2020 rideshare proposition. That, of course, was Proposition 22. But the most expensive campaign still remains the one for the 2022 gambling propositions, Prop 26 and 27, which shattered records at more than $450 million combined on both sides. But where is all that money coming from? Most of the yes side cash is flowing in from the national Democratic groups, including the House Majority PAC and labor unions, who view Prop 50 as a test run for the 2026 midterms. The no side is largely backed by Republican congressional leadership funds and conservative donors like Charles Munger Jr., but notably missing so far any money from the Trump political committees. Voting has already started for the special election. According to the latest CBS News polling, it looks like California voters are ready to give the new map a green light. 62% of likely voters said the plan to vote yes on Proposition 50. 38% said they plan to vote no. They were also asked what was behind their votes for those voting yes on Proposition 50. 75% said it was to oppose Donald Trump, while a majority of those say they are voting no because they say the president is not a factor in their vote. We have also seen a lot of local support on both sides of the issue. Those in the support of Proposition say it's necessary to protect democracy and level the playing field, especially after the decision to redraw district maps in Texas.
We have to do something, because sitting and just playing by his rules, working people will lose every single time. So yes, we're fighting fire with fire, and we have to make sure that the playing field is leveled.
Those against Proposition 50 say the measure would essentially rig elections for Democrats, hurting Californians more than Trump.
Now, they hate Trump, so they think, well, I hate Trump, so let me do something bad to hurt Trump. You're not hurting Trump. You're hurting millions of Californians who will be silenced because they will be basically put into districts and shouted down.
Both sides say they plan to continue making their voices heard in the final days as we inch closer towards the special election. President Trump recently shared his own response to Proposition 50 on social media. In a Truth Social post, Trump said yes to voter ID. Watch how totally dishonest the California prop vote is. Millions of ballots being, quote, shipped. Get smart, Republicans, before it's too late. This comes after the Justice Department announced it's sending federal election observers to California ahead of the special election. The DOJ will monitor polling sites in 5 counties in Southern California and Central California, including Fresno, Los Angeles, and Orange County. And the department says the goal is to ensure transparency at the ballot boxes, while Governor Gavin Newsom's office called the move, quote, an intimidation tactic. But we spoke with CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarland, who tells us this move is actually nothing out of the ordinary.
They do this each and every time. There's a little bit more cynicism, I think, because this Department of Justice is run now by people who encouraged the baseless claims of election fraud in 2020 and were part of the Trump team defending itself against the second Trump impeachment, which came after the 2020 election. So perhaps there's a cynicism or a political concern about who's making the announcement. But this is a customary announcement by a Department of Justice, no matter what state and no matter which election year.
And the Justice Department is also suing California, at least 7 other states, over their voter roll information. The department has not said why it wants that data. Well, coming up, it's easy to see the changes on a map. But how would redistricting actually change the lives of Californians? We talked to farmers up north who are worried their voices will be forgotten. Plus, all that hard work potentially down the drain. We speak to the independent commission responsible for the current congressional maps, why they fear politics is being prioritized over principle. Well, welcome back. We're seeing different sectors of the economy react to Proposition 50, from educators in big cities to farmers in rural areas. Among those farmers are the ones in Butte County who say they would be directly impacted by the changes. Voters there tell our Kara St. Cyr that they fear their interests will be ignored.
My family's been farming in the area since 1861.
Farming is in Ryan Shore's blood.
So I'm the sixth generation.
Shore Farms is located in Congressional District 1, Butte County, the beating heart of Northern California's Farm Belt.
But this will be more than likely a rice field. We might do some cover cropping in here this fall.
His district is at the center of a political tug-of-war between Democrats and Republicans, both vying for extra congressional seats. A newly proposed map would draw new party lines, limiting the impact of Republican voters like Shore.
In terms of the broad geographic spread, it's probably divisive just to split up these communities, right? and really make it difficult to be represented equally and fairly across the spectrum with communities of interest, right? Those interests are very different and very unique.
The new map slices District 1 in half, cutting out heavily Republican counties. Lawmakers then extended the border to include parts of Sonoma and Marin County, dyeing the once red district deep blue.
People here, I think, are going to feel pretty much abandoned.
The new lines aim to oust Republican Congressman Doug LaMalfa from a post he's held since 2013.
I know this seat doesn't belong to me, and it's not forever anyhow. But I guess the bigger concern is if this district is shifted into basically being a Bay Area district, what's going to happen to all the other people we're talking to?
If approved, California's Republican representation would dip from 9 seats to 4. LaMalfa says rural concerns will be buried under Bay Area voices, including the cost of this redistricting effort.
It's projected that it's going to cost the state $235 statewide to run it, and the counties I represent, they've sent us their projections, and it's going to add up to right at $4 million. These are already small, struggling counties. They just had to put a new sales tax here to pay for police and fire and libraries.
But he's also concerned about water policy. 20 miles south of LaMalfa's farm, Dr. Dave Daly echoes his concerns.
They don't. Everybody worries about water. Everybody has changed and improved their irrigation systems to try and be more efficient. You know, it's timers on your wells, and it's lots of things you do.
According to the California Water Impact Network, about 80% of the state's developed water is set aside for farmland as of 2025.
Newt, way around, way out.
But Daly is scared of more caps on how much he can use.
Load up.
Redistricting adds fuel to the fire.
It makes no sense to me, just like it makes no sense in Texas, disenfranchising people who should be represented in Congress.
The decision is ultimately in the hands of the public. The map will be sent to a vote in November.
I think that's one of the frustrations.
Shore is anxiously waiting.
People, 8, 9, 10 hours away in San Diego County, Los Angeles County, are going to decide how our votes are diced and sliced in what congressional district here in Northern California. I think that is part of the issue, right?
An issue with the power to change everything.
Well, many who do support Proposition 50 believe passing the ballot measure will help bring back resources they say have been taken away under President Trump's leadership. Regina Codola, an elementary school teacher in Berkeley, has spent her evenings campaigning in favor of Proposition 50.
I teach my students how to be fair, right? How to vote for decisions, play in recess with rules, and how they just can't change the rules in the middle of the game. And I'm seeing politicians doing that. They're just changing the rules in the middle of this work, and it's trickling down and impacting our students' families. Here we are doing our personal best to make sure all students are learning, all families are getting their services, when politicians are out there cutting it.
She believes the measure could restore public resources that her students rely on, with the goal of restoring democratic power in Washington. Buxton King is campaigning for Proposition 50 as a member of the Service Employees International Union in San Francisco. She is also a healthcare worker who takes care of her adult brother every day. She worries about what will happen to those who rely on Medicare if Proposition 50 is not passed.
Do you think those people are threatened right now?
Yes, they're totally threatened because they're the first one, everything's getting cut. I want someone to be here for him. Right now, I'm this only voice that he have in the world. I'm standing up for him because he can't come out here and fight.
And one group with a unique perspective on Proposition 50 is the Citizens Redistricting Commission. That association responsible for drawing the current maps and just 4 years ago. The commissioners tells our Devin Feely they're proud of the maps and don't want to see their work erased by politics.
We've watched the Democrats destroy our country.
Yes, we'll fight fire with fire.
They're trading votes behind closed doors.
Don't mess with the great Golden State.
It was designed to avoid the bruising, bare-knuckle partisan politics that now infects our national elections.
Certainly, it brings me no joy to see our work being tossed aside.
Sarah Sidwali and Russell Yee,
everybody really wanted fair and equitable maps,
are two of the 14 commissioners who helped draw California's current congressional district maps.
This was a commission of very open-minded individuals and folks who were all committed to this goal of passing fair maps.
The 14 commissioners were selected from more than 20,000 applicants in a process designed to ensure bipartisanship. 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, and 4 independents. They spent more than a year and countless hours listening to the public as they drew the lines for California's 52 congressional districts. And in the end, they say they accomplished something nearly miraculous, largely removing politics from politics.
We approved the maps unanimously. We all stand by the maps. If we had received any legal challenges to the maps, we would have defended them in court. But as it happened, we received none, which was a surprise to everyone.
So after all the time and all the thought that went into drawing the maps in the first place, neither Sarah nor Russell relishes the idea of them being thrown out, especially in favor of something nakedly partisan.
While I, of course, always carry concerns for our state's democracy, I'm also incredibly concerned about the state of our national democratic institutions.
Sarah, a Democrat, reluctantly supports the governor's plan. Russell, a Republican, has grave reservations, fearing that politics has once again trumped principle.
Our efforts to draw districts that well represented people across the state in a fair and equitable manner, will be eroded by districts that are less fair and less equitable.
The commissioners approved their maps on the day after Christmas in 2021, a gift to California voters and a down payment on fair elections, never imagining even for a moment that they might not survive the decade.
And Governor Newsom has been the champion of Proposition 50, but he's out of office next year. Coming up, what gubernatorial candidates have to say about the plan that they might have to oversee. Well, welcome back. The upcoming special election is not the only consequential decision facing voters. Californians will also have to decide who they want for their next governor of California in 2026. And Proposition 50 is also top of mind for California's gubernatorial candidates. So where do most of them stand? CBS News investigative correspondent Julie Watts sat down with each of them to find out.
I just sat down with my 12-year-old daughter and explained redistricting.
Yes.
California voted for an independent commission.
Yes, we did.
And now our governor and our legislature are redrawing the lines so that they get to pick who goes to D.C. People who live in what is now a red county, when they vote for a Republican, that Republican goes to Congress. And now these people in power in California are going to take that vote away from those people. What do you say to that 12-year-old who says, did 2 wrongs make a right?
What I would tell her is take a look at what happens in Washington, D.C. You have a finite number of votes. Right now you have a nearly equal number of Republicans and Democrats. Donald Trump is afraid he's going to lose his slim majority of Republicans come 2026 elections. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to rig the process to give himself more Republicans.
It's not 2 wrongs. This is different. What Texas is doing is acting out of the course of the census, not following new census data. They are not doing this after the census. They're not doing this through the normal course. They are doing
We're not
this
doing it
because
after the census either,
president-
right? We're mid-census term.
They're doing it because Donald Trump instructed them to do it. And who's doing it in Texas? Who's making the decision? The legislature.
Texas didn't change its constitution to take the power to draw the maps out of the hands of the politicians, put it in the hands of the people, which we did here. The rules are that you draw the maps straight after the federal census every 10 years. By drawing these maps in the middle, they don't know who lives where. Millions of people have left California. In Los Angeles, whole communities have burnt down. Who knows who lives where?
The Democrats, they want to consolidate power. And under the guise of fighting back against the Republicans and fighting back against Trump, you are handing them more power. Well, what have they done to earn it? Are y'all feeling that this has been a state that has been well run and for your best interest? So you're going to essentially hand them the keys to make sure that they own every district in the state?
It's let me tell you how broken something is by telling you I'm going to break it more.
My wife she doesn't like it. She doesn't support it. She thinks that districts should be drawn by independent redistricting commissions and that it is wrong for the state to be putting its finger on the scale. And for me, if we're going to have hope of any type of leverage during Donald Trump's presidency, it would be really helpful if Democrats controlled Congress. But again, this really illustrates a lot of the frustration that I have with not just my party, but politics in general, is that this is all in response to something that Donald Trump said. That is a great opportunity to rally the troops and introduce legislation in Congress and put them on the spot and make them say that we should continue to gerrymander across this country. I think that would have been more strategic, but here we are, we're left with this decision. And in my own family, day comes up, we vote.
Well, you can find out much more on the candidates and their stances on the important issues on KPIX.com. Well, thanks so much for joining us on our special election coverage on Proposition 50. Make sure you tune in on November 4th for a complete coverage from the polls opening until the results are in.